I'm Shauna Rathie, and I'm going to be speaking on The Cultural Difference in Two Kinds by Amy Tan. Mother's background. Jingmi's mother was a typical Chinese woman who luckily got to move to the United States. My mother believed you could do anything you wanted to be in America. That was one of the quotes from Two Kinds. The United States was this fantasy world where all your dreams can come true, and since she was too old for that, she decided to help her daughter make her dreams come true. This is one of the things that a lot of parents have an issue with their children with. They like to live out their dreams through their children, and that causes a lot of tension and a lot of instability in families because it causes a very unhealthy relationship between the parents and the children. Another quote from Two Kinds is, "America was where all my mother's hopes lay." Growing up, Jingmi grew up with her mother, always trying to get her to do something her mother wanted her to do. Her mother was simply living her dreams in Jingmi, like I said in the previous slide. Another quote from Two Kinds. "At first, my mother thought I could be a Chinese Shirley Temple. We'd watch Shirley's old movies on TV as though they were training films. My mother would poke my arm and say, 'Nikan, you watch.'" And I believe at this time that Jingmi was being set up to be a show business prodigy. And the only reason that she was being a show business prodigy was because Jingmi's mother had always had the dream of being in show business herself. So she was trying to live out her dreams in her daughter, and that's the only reason she was pressuring her daughter so much into doing this. Her mother simply wants her to become successful, but will do absolutely anything, but at what cost? Growing apart. Once Jingmi reached a certain age, she became not very interested in following her mother's directions on becoming a prodigy. This girl and I were the same. I had new thoughts, willful thoughts, or rather thoughts filled with lots of won'ts. I would let her change me. I won't let her change me. I promised myself I won't be what I'm not. And at this point, she finally reached where they split. This is where the Americanized version of Jingmi came in, where the culture is completely split. She wasn't Chinese Jingmi anymore. She was Americanized Jingmi. She decided to start thinking about herself more and realize that she can be whoever she wants to be. She doesn't have to follow whatever her mother wants her to be. Once her mother started to see this rebellious side, tension between the two of them began to grow. Cultural imbalance. The lack of cultural bond concomitant with geography informs tension of the mother-daughter relationships in the United States and creates a so-called generation gap that the China-born mothers neither anticipate nor understand. The reason there is so much tension between Jingmi and her mother is because they are literally from two different worlds. Jingmi grew up in America, while her mother grew up in a traditional Chinese home. Her mother is trying to raise her in a traditional Chinese home, but while Jingmi is in school and while she's out of the house doing other activities with friends and wherever else she may be, she's being exposed to the environment of America. So there's all of these different things going on that are causing cultural imbalances to the point where she has this Chinese version of her, but she also has this Americanized version of her. So it just doesn't it's a very imbalanced world for Jingmi. They grew up in two different environments where two different ideas and perspectives were accepted, so it is very hard to communicate. Cultural imbalance continued. When it comes to experiences, their experiences will likely not be the same because they did not grow up in a similar culture. Another quote from Two Kinds. "And then I decided I didn't have to do what my mother said anymore. I wasn't her slave. This wasn't China." And she realized at this time as well that she really does not have to listen to what her mother says. She is her own individual. She can be free to do whatever she wants because this is America, the home of the free. She's not in China. This isn't a collectivist nation. This is a free nation. We are individuals. And this is where her mother decided that Jingmi's very selfish for what she's trying to do. This is a collectivist home. We are all in this together. We aren't individuals here. It does help that Jingmi's family lives in Chinatown, but it is still very Americanized because Chinatown is only a small portion in San Francisco, so that doesn't really help their cause. As much as Jingmi and her mother will try and get along, they will always come across some cultural differences that will cause some issues. Collectivism. The Chinese culture, as well as most Asian cultures, believe in the idea of collectivism, which basically means that it is more about the whole group rather than the individual, which is the complete opposite in America. In America, we believe in freedom and individualism. We believe about expressing ourselves as well, while in China we try and keep everything under wraps. We try and keep things to ourselves as well. This idea is probably a huge problem for Jingmi and her mother, because this is the time she should be worrying about herself rather than her whole family and trying to make them all proud. This is also a time in adolescence, because this is probably where Jingmi is in her adolescent stage as well. This is the time where she needs to find herself and find her identity, but her mom is trying to get her to do other things where she is very isolated and she can't really find her identity. An individual identity. They are unable to interpret their mother's stories of individual strength, and each daughter fails to recognize her mother's individual identity. Most American daughters of Chinese women feel as if their mothers are weak because they are a collectivist family. They truly do not have an identity. Most Chinese mothers are stay-at-home moms who are very quiet and keep to themselves. Most mothers around the world, most housewives around the world, they're basically known as being housewives who are very kept to themselves and aren't very respected around the world. So that's why a lot of Americanized Chinese children don't really respect their mothers because of this collectivist family that they see, and their mothers are not very respected because of their role in the family. So they are asking themselves if their mother really does have her own identity or her own strength. All Chinese American children rebel against their mothers. When it comes to that, most children of all kind of different races and ethnic backgrounds rebel against all of their parents because they are looking for their own identity, but their mother wants them to be something else. In Jingmi's case, her mother wants her to become a pianist prodigy. She makes her take lessons every day, and to be specific, around 4 p.m. every day, to perfect the art while Jingmi hates it. All children want to explore options on their own so they can find their own identity, not their parents' identity, in Jingmi's case, but not to be forced to do different activities because it is something their parents have always wanted to do. Tiger Mom. The term Tiger Mom became known when a book was published called Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother by Amy Chow. Chow uses the term Chinese mother to describe a person, Chinese or not, mother or not, who holds high, almost impossible, expectations for children and for oneself. Jingmi's mother is a perfect example of a tiger mom, because throughout the whole story, she is setting many impossible standards for her daughter to reach. And in that case, for example, to include when it comes to asking her what the capital Finland is, because that question came out of nowhere, and that would be a very perfect example of a tiger mom, asking her random vocabulary questions, asking her a lot of questions that would exercise the brain, just giving her no time to herself, and just making her have to reach these high goals. That is what a tiger mother is. Especially, the best example of a tiger mom is when they enroll their children in an extracurricular activity, especially a musical extracurricular activity, and they usually enroll them in either piano or violin. And in Jingmi's mother's case, she enrolled her in piano. Jingmi's mother was never satisfied, by anything Jingmi accomplished, mainly because Jingmi was quite average at everything she tried. No matter how hard Jingmi tried, it never satisfied her mother, but her mother was still strict and was certain that Jingmi would master everything with practice, because, as the old saying goes, practice makes perfect. The breaking point. Jingmi finally decided to give up after she forgot how to play a song on piano at the talent show in front of her friends and family. After that, Jingmi finally reached her breaking point, and she thought her mom finally realized that she can't play piano. So Jingmi refused to play piano and decided to not listen to her mother anymore. And then there was a very, very strong and suspenseful dialogue between Jingmi's mother and Jingmi in two kinds. "You want me to be someone that I'm not," I sobbed. "I'll never be the kind of daughter you want me to be." "Only two kinds of daughters," she shouted in Chinese, "those who are obedient and those who follow their own mind. Only one kind of daughter can live in this house, obedient daughter." Finding a resolution. The resolution to a cultural imbalanced relationship is learning more about each culture in a healthy way. Sitting down with each other, discussing each other's culture in a very healthy way. The children can talk about what they were learning in school today in history, and then the mother could talk about her history back home in China and things like that. That's how people can integrate their cultures together in a healthy way. Taking time to sit down and talk about each other's, as well as getting a better understanding of each other. In Jingmi's case, venting to her mother about her frustrations of what her mother is doing to her. But usually the only way out of the jaws of a tiger mom is waiting until the age of 18 and moving out, which is very sad and depressing for most people, but most tiger mothers will not stop and will stay strict, and it will push most children away. Thank you.